Most of us don't remember the exact moment we learned what gratitude actually feels like. Not gratitude as a concept, not saying thank you, not counting blessings, but genuine gratitude. The quiet, warm, almost aching recognition that something in front of you is real and good and might not last forever. Gene Kelly built a career on spectacle. The films he danced in were full of elaborate sequences, fountains, staircases, hundreds of extras, elaborate sets that cost more to build than most people earned in a year. He was meticulous, demanding, precise. He worked until things were exactly right, and exactly right for Gene Kelly meant something the average person could barely imagine. But in later interviews, when people asked him which moments from his career he most treasured, he consistently turned away from the grand spectacles. He didn't describe the filming of Singin' in the Rain in the way people expected. The famous number, the rain machine, the yellow raincoat that became iconic. He mentioned those things, of course, but what seemed to light him up in conversation were smaller things. The afternoon of rehearsal spontaneously became something magical when no one was particularly trying. The moment a young dancer in the background of a scene got something exactly right and glanced over at Gene with an expression that was equal parts disbelief and joy. An ordinary Tuesday on the lot, when the light happened to fall in a way that made everything look beautiful, and he stopped for a moment and just noticed it. He once described, in a late interview, a specific afternoon, the kind of afternoon that had nothing particularly remarkable about it, except that he had been fully present for it. He had been sitting outside between takes on a simple folding chair, with a cup of coffee, watching some of the dancers he'd worked with for years warming up nearby. They weren't performing for anyone, just moving through combinations, loosening up, talking and laughing quietly among themselves. And he said that sitting there, watching that, he had felt something he struggled to name, a deep, simple pleasure in the fact that this was his life, that these people were his people, that this was what his days were made of. He said he wished he had let himself feel that more often during the actual years of making those films, not just in retrospect, that he'd been so focused on getting everything right, so consumed by what still needed fixing, that he'd sometimes missed the pleasure of what was already there. And by the time he was old enough to really understand how to appreciate those moments, the moments themselves were over. Not completely, but the particular version of them, with those particular people on those particular afternoons, would never come exactly that way again. That was the realization. Not a sad one exactly, but a gentle, important one. That gratitude is most useful when it's applied to the present moment, not just to the past when it's too late to go back. Not just to the big achievements, which are easy to recognize as worth celebrating, but to the small, ordinary things happening right now, today, that you might not think to notice. Maybe you felt that too. Maybe there are things in your life right now, ordinary, unremarkable, present, that you take for granted simply because they've been there for so long that they've become invisible. A person who's always around, so reliably that you've stopped really seeing them. Morning routine you've had for years that gives your day a shape, and that you'd miss terribly if it were taken away. A neighborhood. a chair, a smell of coffee in the morning, or a sound that means someone you love is home. These things rarely announce themselves as worth being grateful for. That's almost the definition of them. They're so consistent, so quietly present, that they slip beneath the threshold of conscious appreciation. Until they're gone, of course. Then we remember. Then we'd give a great deal to have one more Tuesday with them, ordinary in every way. Gene Kelly knew this toward the end of his life. He'd had a remarkable career, genuinely, historically remarkable, the kind that fills books and inspires generations. And the moments he carried most tenderly weren't the applause. They were the folding chair, the cup of coffee, the dancers warming up nearby, the Tuesday afternoon that looked, at the time, like nothing in particular. Maybe it's time to look around at your current life with a little of that same attention. Not to pretend that everything is perfect, or that there aren't things that are genuinely difficult, but to notice, alongside the difficulty, what is also simply here, present, steady, quietly good, in a way that you might not have stopped to name in a while. A practice that some people find helpful, not a big commitment, just a small one, is to end each day with one sentence. Not a list, just one sentence. Something that was actually present today that was genuinely good. It doesn't need to be significant. In fact, it probably shouldn't be. The point is to notice the small things, the folding chair moments, before they've passed. Gene Kelly said he wished he'd done more of this during the years he was actually living them. That the skill he was proudest of wasn't choreography, exactly, though that was extraordinary. It was the ability, which he developed late, to actually appreciate an afternoon while he was in it. To let himself feel how good it was, without rushing past it toward whatever needed attention next. There's something worth sitting with in that even one of the most disciplined, demanding, accomplished perfectionists in Hollywood history looked back and wished he'd been a little more present, a little more willing to sit in the folding chair and just notice. And there's another side to this, too. Maybe gratitude for you is complicated right now. Maybe things are genuinely hard, and being told to notice the small, good things feels, in this moment, a little hollow. If so, that's all right. Gratitude doesn't have to be constant, or even easy to be real. Even in hard seasons, there's usually at least one small thing each day that is genuinely okay. One moment that in the middle of everything offers something real. A warm room. A kind voice on the phone. A piece of music that finds you exactly when you needed it. Noticing that one thing, just one, without forcing it, is enough. That's not minimizing what's hard. It's choosing not to let what's hard be the only thing you see. Gene Kelly's folding chair afternoon cost nothing. It required no planning, no equipment, no performance. It just required him to be there, and to notice that he was there, and to feel, even briefly, the quiet pleasure of a life that was his. Maybe yours is already offering you a moment like that, quietly, right now. Maybe it has been for a while. Maybe it just needs you to look. There's one more thing worth remembering about that Gene Kelly afternoon. He didn't do anything about it. He didn't write it down. He didn't pull anyone aside to tell them how good it felt. He just sat there for a little while longer than he needed to and let himself be in it. And then he went back to work. That might be the most important part. He didn't turn gratitude into a project or a performance or something that needed to be shared and documented and made into something. He just felt it, quietly, privately, entirely for himself, and let that be enough. Because it was enough. We live in a time when everything seems to be about sharing, documenting, making a record of the moment so it can be shown to someone else. And there's nothing wrong with that. But some moments are better lived privately, in the chest, without any need to turn them outward. A feeling of gratitude that you don't tell anyone about is still real. It still does the thing gratitude does. It roots you, briefly, in the recognition of how much good is already here. And it changes you a little, even if no one sees it. Even if the only person who knows it happened is you. Some of the most enduring gratitude works this way. Small, private, unreported. The kind that builds, over years, into a general orientation toward what you already have, rather than an anxious accounting of what you still lack. That kind of gratitude tends to make everything slightly easier. Not because your circumstances change, but because your relationship to what's already there shifts, gradually, into something warmer. Gene Kelly spent decades creating beauty for other people to experience. And the moment he treasured most from all of it was a moment no one else experienced at all. Just him and a cup of coffee and an ordinary afternoon. The beauty wasn't on screen that day. It was in the way he let himself notice what was already there. If you're watching this tonight, maybe there's an ordinary afternoon waiting for you this week. One that could hold something like that, if you let it. Nothing planned, nothing arranged, just the folding chair and the coffee, and whatever version of the dancers warming up your own life happens to be offering. So take a slow breath. And maybe, the next time an ordinary afternoon offers itself to you, let yourself feel it for a moment, exactly as it is. Not as a placeholder for something better. Just as the quietly good, entirely real, completely available thing it already is.